unbeliever in the prophetic saying, "None of you truly believe until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself."
وبص على خريطة العالم واكتب على كل بلد وكل مدينة علامة إن احنا نفتح في المكان ده كله.
I think Dr. Hany is one of the great philanthropists, one of the great humanitarians of our current times.
Dr. Hany El Banna, for services to Islamic relief.
Hany El Banna.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm happy as always to meet you in this episode of Dialogue with Dr. Hany El Banna, who has great experience in charitable and humanitarian work. We are, as you know, talking about the forum Global Dimensions of Humanitarian Work, which were held in Istanbul at the end of last month. And we also talk about Dr. Hany's valuable guidance and visions on other topics and on multiple experiences. In this episode, the discussion will focus on Mr. Waddah Khamfar's lecture, The Current International Balance of Power and its Reflection on the Future of Humanitarian and Societal and Social Work. Dr. Hany, welcome.
السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم. أهلا بك إن شاء الله.
Allah يبارك فيك. Happy as always to learn from you, to learn from the best. And let's start first with some of the activities you attended during the past week.
This was Orphans Federation conference in Istanbul, which was reflecting the 6th anniversary of the Federation. And mostly those children, the photographs are Syrian orphans in Istanbul, but there's many of them inside Syria. This is another group of volunteers from Canada, and it's also orphans from Syria. This is the volunteers from Canada coming with a program called Inspire to take the young volunteers, Canadian volunteers, bring them to different countries like Bosnia, like South Africa, like Tunisia. And this is some of the orphans singing some of the songs for the children.
Here, as we can see, your parental presence.
Yeah, and they have been here since Sunday. About 7 days now, or 6 days. And today was the last day, and everybody will be leaving on Sunday. I'm playing with the children. There was 2 groups of children from Syria, as well as another group, children from Igor from China, but we didn't have them on the film. There was another group. So these are some of the activities that organizations are using the civil liberty space in Turkey, in Istanbul, and come to meet and come to organize workshops, conferences, dialogue, and all these sort of things. And one of the things in Turkey now, Turkey has at least 5 to 6 million refugees, maybe political or maybe refugees like the people come from Syria, from Yemen, from other countries, and enjoying the civil liberty space. Even hundreds and hundreds of Syrian organizations being registered, as well as others from Egypt, from Iraq, from Yemen, from Somalia, from other countries are registering their organization there to help their own countries.
Let me ask you, Dr. Hany, on the subject of orphans. what is your assessment of the experiences of orphan care in Arab and Islamic organizations, and what are the ways to improve this field?
It is very traditional, unfortunately, extremely traditional. The amount of money is provided by the donor to the orphans is minimum, cannot be sufficient to cover the cost of life for a child with his mother. $50 or $60 is minimum. You cannot do that. And using the word sponsorship with kafala is not right. Kafala means that actually you look after the child as much as you look after your own children. Your daughter, your son. And this is what has been mentioned in the Holy Quran to Maryam. وَكَفَّلَهَا زَكَرِيَّا. كفلها يعني he was treating her like his daughter, his own daughter. يعني this is the kafala. But if you want to say supporting orphan, you can even give one dirham, one riyal, one dinar, whatever it is. But to call kafala, you have to treat the orphan like your own children. This is number one. Number two, which is still very traditional, it is putting orphans in orphanage, which is out of date. Out of date in a sense, يعني it is isolating the child from the greater community. This is number one. So you can provide the child with everything, but he is not exposed to the difficulty of life in the community itself, which will create very vulnerable and weak children. This is number one. Number two, sometimes the carer in this kind of dormitories or orphanages abuse the children, whether they are girls or boys. And that's why the Western organizations stopped having to build this kind of orphanages, and they support the families now as a support family scheme, or as giving the money to the mother or to the carer of the child, and keeping the child with his relatives or with his mother. So these are the two problems which are facing our work with the orphans in the Arab and the Islamic world, or the Arab and the Islamic organization. And please, my advice to the donor, actually building orphanages create a lot of problems. Create a lot of problems. We had an organization in UK in whom they were sponsoring some of these orphanages, and unfortunately, at the end of the day, they discovered child abuse by some of the carers to the girls and to the boys. And the organization was closed in this country, as well as the organization in UK actually was investigated by the Charity Commission because of the lack of safeguarding policy inside this organization.
Well, back to Professor Waddah Khanfar's lecture, The Current International Balance of Power and its Reflection on the Future of Humanitarian and Societal Work. Some might say that this issue is political, and that charitable organizations should not be concerned with it on the grounds that they are bound by neutrality and other working values. What do you say, Dr. Hany, in this regard? On what basis was this topic programmed in the forum?
First of all, if I like to remind those people saying this is political, yes, it's political. I believe it's political. There's no harm of listening to political views and how the political views affecting the charitable and humanitarian work in the field. Secondly, the work of humanitarian workers and social work in the field is cross-cutting with all the dimensions of the society, whether it's political, economical, social, educational, theological, religious, historical, media, art, all this, because This kind of organization deal with the needs of human beings. Thirdly, most of the workers in the humanitarian field and social field understand politics even more than politicians, because they are exposed to this kind of different problems, and they understand from the feeling or the needs of the community the causes of the problem, whether it's political or economical, and the solution for such a problem. So we put it intentionally because any political changes in a country affect humanitarian work. Any economical change in a country affects humanitarian work. Any social change in a country affects humanitarian work. Any religious changes in a country affects humanitarian work, and so on. Or any philosophical change in the understanding of the lifestyle in a country affects humanitarian work. So we don't want to be like the ostrich, Naama, which she hides her head in the sand and the rest of his body is appearing. Yes, it's political, but we need to understand politics. We need to understand the opinions of those people to avoid falling in the trap. Let me take you, I'll give you an example, if I have the time to give you the example.
Okay, go on.
In 2003, I met with British ambassador in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, and they were discussing the causes of terrorism at that time in his office. And I told you as governments, not Britain, I mean the governments were the causes behind this. Said, no, it is you organization. I said, let me take you back to the crisis or the conflict of Afghanistan, Soviet Union at the end of the 70s till the beginning of the 90s. And let me tell you that you people used to give visa for the Mujahideen to come and raise funds from your own country, from France, from Belgium, from Holland, from the United States of America, from Germany. And those in these conferences, people were raising funds for military equipments. Let me tell you that some other governments from the Middle East were giving 50% discount to the Mujahideen who are traveling to Afghanistan at that time. And let me tell you something, that some of those Mujahideen or some people who have been called names later on or classified actually were coming to raise funds from the rulers of this area. And after all this trap you made for the organization, you tell me that you are a political or you are mixing military or whatever it is. It's you people. When it interests you politically, use the social and humanitarian organization. When it does not interest you, it does not suit you. So what happened after that, not to those people who are involved in the fight, but to the people who are really doing a lot of humanitarian work in Pakistan and Afghanistan at the time, when they came back to their own countries in the Middle East, they were captured from the airport and put in the prison. So here, when those politicians plan something, they can use the organization for that. My advice is don't listen to the politicians and follow their footsteps. Don't listen to the political desire. Be neutral, be focused, and be clear, and be independent from the politicians, because politicians will never support you when you do a mistake. This is my view.
Professor Waddah Khanfar, in his lecture, spoke about a general state of confusion in the international, regional, and local scene at all levels, politically, economically, and even intellectually. He said, for example, there is an unprecedented state of confusion. He said also, the compass in the Islamic world is missing. Do you first, Dr. Hany, agree with this characterization? And how does this situation affect humanitarian and social work?
He is right. If you look at the quality of the leadership in the good old days, 56 years ago, Whether we agree with their political drive or not, it's beside the point. And you look at the quality of the leadership nowadays in different parts of the world. There's big gap between people who had vision, who had knowledge, who had care for their community and their country, even if we don't agree with their politics. Now, leadership becomes extremely weak and confused, because most of the political decision is governed or actually directed or controlled by the war on terror. And the war on terror makes leaders to be scared and have what we call in medical terminology to wet their underwear or to have knee-jerk effect. Okay? This is exactly what's happening here and there. Look at the quality of the people in Europe and the quality of the people in America. And look at the quality of the people in the 50s and 60s in the same countries. Absolute big difference. The same in the Middle East, the same in Asia, the same in Africa. Absolute difference. This creates a big confusion because of the lack of ability of the leaders to create a decision. This is number one. Number two, the weakness of the United Nations as a member state organization. Not because the United Nations is not a good organization, it's a good organization, but because of the member state, the state themselves, especially of the Security Council and the resolutions, as well as the use of the veto system is becoming a big obstacle against any decision which has been taken in this way. So when you look at this, not only on the political field, look at the quality of arts, the quality of culture, the quality of fashion, the quality of food that we eat, the quality of vehicles of drive, the quality of drama and cinema and acting and poetry and media and. It is very much less, far less qualities than the qualities of the people who had stronger moral values in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and 60s from the last centuries. It is not affecting only the confusion is not affecting only the political field. It's affecting all the education, even education, and even changing history and making the devils, the bad people, good people, and the good people, bad people. As you can see how the media portray some of the good people who try to defend their own countries, and because of political reasons of certain leaders, so the media will make them actually like demon, unfortunately. This is not only affecting the political field. That's why I say Professor Lakhdar was right, because this is a global status of confusion. And because of the lowering the moral value, the ethical values, and all these sort of things.
Okay, some of the laws related to humanitarian and charitable institutions today were the result of political events and interactions. You mentioned the war on terror.
Yeah.
For example, as a result of this war, laws against terrorism and money laundering were enacted, and the establishment of FATF institutions whose tasks are to evaluate countries and their compliance with these standards. And this was reflected in financial transfers, dealing with local partners and others. In your opinion, Dr. Hany, do these laws have a positive or negative impact on charitable and humanitarian work? And what do you think of those who think that they are just reasons to restrict humanitarian work, especially Islamic humanitarian work?
To be very honest, let me say something. I am with any regulation to control money laundering, to stop supporting terrorist organization, to stop supporting radicalism, extremism, and terrorism. I'm with this. To support any law that actually prevent oppression, prevent injustice, and bring fairness and equality to everybody. Any regulation to bring transparency and make all the activities of the organization transparent, whether it's political or economical or agriculture or social or humanitarian or whatever you call it. I am with this to start with. But sometimes these laws could have been, as you mentioned rightly, created to slow down organizations from developing, to put a lot of paperwork, which make the officers in the organization to spend a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of time to prepare this reporting inside the reporting mechanism that been created. Needless to say that some other organizations have been created to classify individual. Some ex-military, ex-security, ex-intelligence officers are in these organizations. And they are actually studying individuals and organizations globally and classifying them. You know how they classify them? They find somebody writing something bad about them. So they can put them in this category or this category or this category without making proper investigation. So you wake one day in the morning and you find your list, your name is on the list, being made by this organization, which is credible to the countries, to the institution. So here, once you found your name there, or you do not understand that your name there, the banking system will start stopping your bank transfer, or start to close your bank account, whether you are an individual or you are a company or you are a charitable organization. So there's organizations which are classifying people. I think they have on the list now more than 3-4 million people on the list, and organization and institution. Then after that, once the banking system go and make the search and found your name or name of the organization is there, so they start to close your organization down. Even if their name is not there, and this banking managers will find that you are trying to send money to countries which are in conflict, like Syria, like Yemen, like Sudan, like Afghanistan. They might come and tell you, okay, fine, we're going to close your bank account down within a month or two without making any reason, and you cannot have any answer from them. Why did they close your bank account as individual or as company or as organization? Let me give you an example Afghanistan, and know how difficult is the situation there, the humanitarian situation there, about the whole country are in dire need for assistance. Still, the transfer of money to Afghanistan is a big problem. Still, cashing your money from your bank, is becoming a big problem. The local bank in Afghanistan does not allow you to even cash your own money, not to receive your own money from your organization afterwards. And I'll give you this example which happened to us. While we were organizing this meeting last month, we have our organization trying to donate 6,000 euro to us, very small amount, from Europe to Europe. It was stopped. And despite the fact, the purpose and the cause of that was very clear. It was not in millions, and it was in Europe, not to Afghanistan, not to Pakistan, not to Sudan, not to Somalia, not to Yemen, not to Syria. It's from Europe to Europe. Stopped it. And we have to fight back for a few weeks to bring the money. This is what's happening. A smaller organization in France, because they started to work with another international one in Palestine and in Sudan, the bank manager sent a message that they're going to close your bank account down within a month. Try to find yourself another bank. This was happening really. So it becomes very difficult to find that actually the bank manager himself or herself are the people because they are scared for their future, they are scared for their position, they are scared for actually their job. They stop this kind of transfer. Because they might say in 5 years' time or whatever it is, people might discover that actually this money has fallen in the wrong hands, actually, and I was the one who signed up this bank transfer. So it becomes very difficult for the Muslim charities.
Well, definitely there is much work to do because these laws are obviously reasons to restrict humanitarian work. What charitable and humanitarian work can do in this situation, I mean?
In this situation, the only thing that they can do, they can come together. They can build a coalition. They can stand together to make a statement to try to change the law. They can lobby governments. They can lobby the American government. They can lobby the British government. They can lobby the French government. They can lobby the Canadian government. They can lobby all of them. But you cannot lobby these governments alone as an individual organization. You have to sit down together and strategize how can you make this lobbying to lobby these governments and try to have a research-based evidence of your argument when you start to raise the flag high and say this is affecting the life of people in different parts of the world. Without sitting together and building partnership, making coalition, find partners amongst other governments which can agree with you to help you, find other organizations, whether local organization or national organization or regional organization or international organization, to make this kind of lobbying process to affect the decision which could be made by God. I give you an example, actually, which happened in United Nations. Actually, regarding getting the food to go to, or the aid material to go to Syria from the border of Turkey, there are 13 countries in the room in the United Nations. 11 of them were with the decision of getting the food inside. 2 of them abstained, yani did not vote. And the last one, which was one of the member state of the Security Council, objected. So 1 against 12 or 13 countries stopped the decision. And this is how this could affect, because of the power of the veto in the United Nations, and of the member of the Security Council of the United Nations.
Among the important signs and keys that Mr. Waddah explained in his lecture is that we live in a moment of openness to ideas and solutions. He said openness is now possible and it is an opportunity. He said also this openness leads to human communication and sharing of experiences. He also spoke of the best investment. He said now the best investment is investing in young people and helping them develop. What is your comment, Dr. Hani, on that says?
Okay, regarding openness and communication, it is clear
Mhm,
with technological revolution, with the social media, multiple social media platforms, with the strong telecommunication system, with the high advanced technology. Yes, what happened in China or in Latin America at 5 o'clock, it reaches you 5 minutes after that.
mhm,
We have to use these facilities to disseminate our messages, to reach other people, to educate them in their own local languages. Actually, it is this open and world becomes very, very important for organization to use this space. Sometimes governments stop you from entering its country or their countries. That's right? No visa. And sometimes they arrest people at the border without any reason. But with the Zoom and with other social media means, you can reach hundreds of thousands of people in these countries. And my advice here to such security, I tell them, please use your artificial intelligence or emotional intelligence to understand that such a scholar or such a scientist or such a learned man or woman will reach your own people, whether you like it or not, whether he comes to your own country or not. This is one thing, talking about the openness. Talk about actually the communication. Now you are in Morocco, and I'm in UK, or I am in Istanbul, or I am in Cairo. Okay? In this space, you meet me, and people are listening to me while I'm talking to you, whether I speak in English, or French, or German, or Chinese, or Arabic, or this audience are listening to you without costing you money to travel from Morocco to China, or Morocco to South Africa, or Morocco to United States of America. This is very important that for every young officer or every individual working in the humanitarian field or social field to use this facility to reach the people and to empower the people, to educate the people, to support the people, and to raise funds for the people, and to lobby for the people. This is regarding the open space and actually the communication. Regarding the second point, which is investing in youth, absolutely. Absolutely. And here my message is, Mr. Dr. Hammadi, for those people who are in the organization for the last 30 years, please, enough is enough. You have crossed the 60, you have crossed the 70, and you have not prepared any generation to come, to lead after you. Why you are staying in the organization for 30 years, for 20 years, for 40 years, for 25 years, for 15 years? Why? Where is the succession planning? How can you prepare the second generation from young graduates, and from young graduates who are either male or female in your own country and other countries? How can you bring them and train them and make them to be a part of the decision-making process, whether in the executive role or in the advisory role? So because we need those young people. We need 3 or 4 components in any organization, on the executive level as well as on the board of trustees level. On the executive level, we need men, senior, we need young people, then we need women. You tell me, yes, I understand that why we need men, because men are wiser than young people. And the women, I said, yes, could be debatable, but I accept your argument. I will tell you, I bring young people because of their energy, because of their speed, because of their dreams, because of the drive, which I don't have as an old man. Okay? I will bring the woman to the table of the decision maker because of her different culture or different attitude of dealing with these problems. She is more considerate, she is more emotional, she is more loving and caring. And I need in the organization the young people who have the energy, and I need the people who have the love and the care and the compassion as well, and I need the wise people. So I put the three of them together in different level, on the executive role as well as on the board's level as well. So I need the three of them. That's why from the beginning of the creation of any organization, the founders should realize and be aware that they should be accompanied by younger generation, male and female, to mentor them, to coach them, to train them, and to prepare them. I give you an example which happened to Islamic Leaf when I was there. The people who made the success story of Islamic Leaf in the 90s and late 80s were not from one cultural background, were not from one racial background, were not from one ethnic background or even theological background, religious background. Were not from the same age. Okay, most of them, the decision makers at the beginning of the 90s, were less than 30 years old. And they make a big difference. One of them was from Eritrea, one of them was originally from Yemen, one of them was originally from India, was a revert to Islam, one of them was Irish, Egyptian, one of them was Egyptian, and one of them was Lebanese. And these 6 people, who were the real people who make this big jump of Islamic Leaf at the beginning of the 90s. Okay? The period before that, which is from 85 to 90, were the young secondary school students. Most of them were Asian. Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, actually, and some Arabs. So when you look at over the last nearly 40 years, 6 chief CEO and chief executive officers run the organization. First one was myself, who was the founder or co-founder. Second one was somebody who was half Irish, half Egyptian. Third one was originally Yemeni, the young people who been brought up in the country. And number 4 was Egyptian. Number 5 was Eritrean, from Eritrea. Number 6 nowadays, which is originally from Pakistan. And all those people who were running the organization started inside the organization at mid-20s, late 20s. Some of them are very early 30s, very young. But they went to the kitchen from an early age to be prepared to become a leader after 20 years or 15 years.
Well, let me mention that you have as much energy and dreams as the young people, if not more. You said at the end of this lecture, I mean Mr. Waddah Khamfar's lecture, we must be part of the countries in which we live, whether they are Eastern or Western. We are the owners of values and cause, and therefore we must be present in global issues. What is, Dr. Hany, your guidance to charitable and humanitarian institutions through this message?
Well, we came to the West as a migrant community. Okay? So the West gave us the opportunity to build our organizations. We should not be living in the West as alien, coming from different planet, in ghettos, isolating ourselves from the mainstream or from the greater society. We should not. This number one. Number two, we should work as we are the citizen of this country. Care for what happened to its own people. Start to have some program to build or to affect or to help the native population of the country, whether they are in Britain, in Belgium, in Holland, in USA, and others. So another way, we should not be seen as we are foreigners in these countries. And our program, some part of our program, could be done to help the local needy in such countries. You might say that I'm an international organization and there are more needs outside. Yes, I have no problem with this, but I'm saying that you have to start to organize local programs to support the vulnerable community in the host country or in the country that you immigrated to. Actually, there's 5% or 10% or 15% or whatever you have as a part of your plan to, while you are sending money abroad, you don't forget to send money or to spend money on the local community. Let me give you two examples. What happened? One during Haiti earthquake in Haiti, 25 or 22 Muslim organizations responded. And even some of them built schools and spent millions of dollars on the people in Haiti. When the Ukraine conflict happened a few months ago, I was begging some organizations in the West to stand up for Ukrainian. They said all the European and American governments are supporting them financially. I said, okay, fine. I have no problem. Stand up to try to advocate for the cause of the needy people who became internally displaced or they became refugees in the neighboring countries. They refused. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3 countries send their delegation to Poland, to Hungary, to distribute some very small items and to send a message of solidarity. This is what I'm saying. There's a lot of elderly need help in these countries. A lot of homeless need help in this country. A lot of people living alone, actually, or children, or vulnerable street children living in this country as well. So there are a lot of things which the government would love to partner with yourself to help this vulnerable community of these countries. That's why what I said at my statement, yes, consider yourself a citizen, a French, a Spanish, a German, Italian, American, Canadian, British. So the British government will see that you are not isolating your community from the mainstream. This is regarding the question of being responsive and responding to the local needs in these countries.
Dr. Hany, allow me now to present some of the comments of our followers on Facebook pages. Susan commented, she said, the security aspect played a major role in disturbing youth initiatives and local institutions in Yemen.
That's right.
We have also from Khadija Saleh from Tunisia. She said in some Arab and Islamic countries, charitable work is under siege, especially if those in charge of it are Islamists under the pretext of financing terrorism and money laundering.
Okay.
Your comment, Dr. Hany.
Both of them are right for more than one reason. For the first one from Yemen, because with an initiative, with a startup organization which does not have a history, doesn't have enough experience, people will be scared to fund them because of the lack of experience, the lack of financial regulation, the lack of financial reports in this organization. Okay? And it's new to the field and to the donors. That's why there's let's be scared. The second question, also from Khadija, is right. I mentioned to you the civil liberty space in Turkey and how it allowed Syrian refugees and Yemenis and Egyptians and others to build their own social and humanitarian organization. And which does not affect the political system. In these other countries, for the Arab countries, unfortunately, this civil liberty space became very, very small or absent sometimes. Does not exist. Because what? Because the state is supporting one man called the president, or called the king, or called the sheikh, or whatever it is. So it's not supporting the people of the country. That's why the security and the intelligence are so scared that actually the civil society organization will create a local leadership to challenge the political system and its corruption. Both are right. And thank Sister Khadija from, I don't know, from Khadija Saleh, and thank the other sister as well.
The third comment from Ahmed Hamid Al-Hayt from Egypt, he said, workers in the field are the real guarantee for the production of the outputs of humanitarian work and the accurate measurement of needs, but they suffer from conflict with managers.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, the local staff are the most experienced in any organization, in any international organization, because they know the problem, they know the causes, they know the solution. But because they are local, sometimes the headquarters, which could be in Europe or America or some rich Arab countries, might not accept this. It becomes too difficult for them to accept that. How on earth did this man or this woman who are living in this backward country tell us what to do? Okay, this is the mentality of the individual, unfortunately. That's why the local staff, Ahmed Al-Hayt is a humanitarian and social worker, and he is right, absolutely right of what he said. Regarding the relationship between the leaders or the managers or the directors and the staff, a lot of those managers or directors or CEOs, a lot of them do not tolerate the challenge which could be presented to them from the staff, whether they are local or with them in their own country in the head field. Well, this is happening. And this will force, unfortunately, such an individual to look for somebody who is much weaker. And what we call them, yes, minister people, or yes, sir people.
Yeah.
That's true. Ahmed Al-Hayt is a learned humanitarian worker.
Okay. Yusuf bin Baghdad commented that charitable organizations in every country must have strategic local partners. And
yes,
he mentioned that helping that strategic local partners and training them and developing their skills are the mission of these organizations.
It becomes a compelling necessity and duty on any international organization when they go to work in a country which have a lot of small community organization or local organization to find partners. Whether 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 is entirely up to them. To train partners, to empower partners, to support partners, and to protect partners. This is a part of the work of the international organization in this country. Otherwise, they might stay in the country for 20, 30 years. Then when they leave, the organization will collapse. But unfortunately.
The last comment from Hany El Banna, she commented about the economic empowerment projects. She said that economic empowerment projects are important in eliminating unemployment and launching the wheel of development.
She is absolutely right. Thank you, Sister Hayam. You are absolutely right. If Prophet ﷺ said, من مات آمنا في سربه معافا في بدنه عنده قوت يومية كان كأنما حيدت له الدنيا. The one who will sleep safe in his house, have good health, and have the food ration for the day, is like the one who Allah favor him on the other people in this dunya. That's the hadith. Okay. Economic empowerment is a process, is a program, is a vision. By empowering the local community to become independent, particularly the widows, the vulnerable people, the displaced people, and the poor people. The economic empowerment will let the individual himself to be able to teach his children, will be able to look after something else in the community. So this is how local empowerment or economical empowerment is essential from day one. Not only that, creating the Waqf system or the Waqf scheme is absolute necessity from day one. That's actually what we're talking about, economical empowerment from Sister Hayam. Yes, I agree with you. Such economical empowerment should be given to young people, should be given to women, should be given to men.
Okay, Dr. Hany, at the end of this episode, as we rewatch these clips of your parental presence with the orphans and your participation in their activities, allow me to ask you about an important point that Dr. Hussein Al-Qazzaz mentioned in his lecture. He said that we must understand orphanhood in a general way that is not related to the individual case only, but to the state of the nation as a whole. What is your comment on this approach to orphanhood, Dr. Hany?
Yes, he is right in what he said in his lecture. Look at Europe and America nowadays. There is no orphanhood for the whole Western world because America is the father. Look at the time of the challenge or the conflict between the West and the East, actually, which ended by Gorbachev last century. There was two parents, one for the West and one for the East. Nowadays, we have got only one parent for the West, which is the United States of America. Look at the Muslim countries. We used to have a state as a parent or as a father in different parts of the world, which is covering a huge geographical area. It's not there anymore. That's why most of the local countries or most of the states are treated like orphans. No father, no mother, but some children in living in a no-go area, which are the countries there. Yes, the Muslim Ummah is in a state of orphanage, unfortunately, living like orphans. No state is caring for them and planning for them and supporting them.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hany, for this interesting dialogue. Dear followers, we invite you to share and comment this content. Until we meet again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you. جزاك الله خير. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. خالد الفقراء عشان تسعد.
Dr. Hany was a strong believer in the prophetic saying, "None of you truly believe until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself."
وبص على خريطة العالم واكتب على كل بلد وكل مدينة علامة إن احنا نفتح في المكان ده كله.
I think Dr. Hany is one of the great philanthropists, one of the great humanitarians of our current times.
Dr. Hany El Banna, for services to Islamic relief.